everyone. Thank you for joining us for episode 3 of Coffee Talk at St. Marianne Cope. I just wanted to say good morning and thank you for joining us. Whenever you're watching this, we're glad that you decided to join us. And before we get started, Father, would you like to start us with a quick prayer, please?
Sure. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Lord, we thank you for this new day, full of hope and promise, full of our anxieties for freedom and peace. Grant us the strength to endure whatever comes our way today, and know always that the end of the story of the cross is the glory of the resurrection. Lord Jesus, help us to always understand the pattern of your life and make it the pattern of our own lives. We ask this through Christ, our Lord.
Amen. Amen. And Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So welcome everyone again. We got a couple of guests who are joining us right now. So thank you for being here. What I'm going to do first and foremost, kind of like we did last time, we're just going to do a quick kind of around the horn with the staff to kind of keep you guys up to date as to what's going on. So for that portion of this, I'm going to mute everyone's mics for now, just so we can hear everyone, just so we can kind of hear what the staff are talking about as we talk. After that, I wanted to give us a chance to have more of a discussion this time. You know, Father and I had a good time teaching about something last time, but I wanted to give us a chance to just have a conversation about whatever, ask some questions. I know Father even put out the challenge last time about stumping the staff. So if you have a question about faith or anything related to our Catholic faith that you wanted to try and ask Father or Lori or I to stump us, go for it. And then I wanted to I had like a topic of discussion for today, and we're going to try and keep this as compressed as possible time-wise. I wanted to maybe talk about the idea of self-care and how we handle taking care of ourselves during this lockdown. You know, like as we're all staying at home and staying separate, what are we doing to take care of ourselves emotionally, physically, spiritually? So that's kind of our topic for today, but I'm going to throw things over to Father and let him kind of give you a quick overview of what's been going on in the last week or so since our last coffee talk. Go ahead, Father.
Let's see. Well, we received a letter from our bishop, and he is thinking about how we will start coming back together again. So hopefully in the next week or two, we're going to receive some specific information from the county executive and the health officers of the county as to what we'll be able to do. We'll probably be able to have some kind of public worship. Maybe we'll have mass in the park or the parking lot. We don't know yet. So we have to leave that open. But certainly there's hope, and there's light. Today's gospel reading talks about Jesus, who is the light of the world, the light of revelation. He is the one who dispels the darkness of ignorance. And, so we're hoping that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to hear some specific prescriptions as to how we can be a little more normal. It's certainly not going to be instant, but we're going to try. We'll try to do whatever we can. And we had a parish council meeting last night, and I said to the council that I've already been thinking about how we can have mass, maybe an outdoor mass, maybe how we can do social distancing in the church buildings. So we'll see how that works. We're gonna but we're certainly thinking about that. I'm being proactive about it. I'm ready to do whatever the county executive and the bishop tells us is acceptable and is compliant with the scientists, because I really respect science. God gave us science to help us, and so we should listen to the scientists.
And I think it's important to know that while we are anxiously awaiting the ability to come back together again, we want to make sure that we're doing it as safely as possible.
Exactly.
And I think that as soon as we have any kind of direction, like Father said, we're going to try and make that information available as quickly as possible, as long as we're maintaining health and safety guidelines. So that being said, I wanted to throw it over to Lori and give her a chance to kind of give us an operational view of what's been going on. Lori, is there anything you wanted to share with everyone about anything that's come up since last week?
Not too much different since last week. I've noticed an increased amount of phone calls coming in through the office, which is a good thing. People seem to be reaching out more with questions, which is what we want. Again, especially yesterday, a lot of new phone calls coming in through the food pantry. So that's still a huge need in our community. So we're just, trying to keep communications going still. And, I feel fortunate that I am able still to speak to all the parishioners in the parish and still maintain that contact. So everything's going well.
Okay. Yeah, so everything was kind of operating as normal as we can right now, all things considered. Things have been really going really well I just wanted to share with you guys as far as video for streaming masses. Father and I made a couple of upgrades to how we were producing or making sure that you can get the best quality mass experience. So we're using a little bit of better equipment to do that. So we hope that experience has been better for you. I think, Father, also along the lines of things going back to normal and how we're going to address that, I think that it's really important, just really quick, for us to share what that's going to look like going forward. Are we going to be continuing to do an online experience as well going forward? Or where do you foresee that looking like?
I think that we'll probably, at least for the short run, continue even when we come back to church, because I think that due to people's health issues, not everyone is going to be able to come back immediately. So I think we're going to continue to do that and to continue to provide that kind of spiritual support to people. I think it's necessary, and I hope that people out there are going to they're going to tell us what their needs are. I think sometimes we're just assuming certain needs, but I hope that people will tell us, this is good, we want you to continue this, we need this, this is how we use this or that. We need to know more information. And but I certainly would like to continue to offer that kind of spiritual support online, whatever way that we can. And I know that a lot of people have appreciated even the phone messages. Mm-hmm. And I definitely want to continue the phone messages.
That's great. Yeah, so we want to make sure that we keep access to our parish as open to as many people as possible. I know that I was able to be there for part of the parish council meeting last night, and one of the things that was kind of talked about in the discussion is we're going to be working on some ways to meet the needs of some people who want to be involved, who don't necessarily have the tech capabilities or know-how. So we chose YouTube as the most kind of common denominator way of broadcasting Mass, simply because it's accessible on tablets and phones and any type of computer, and there are smart TVs that have built-in YouTube and you can bookmark it. But we also realize that some of our members either may not know how to access that, and it becomes difficult because we can't go, like somebody like me can't go to their home and help them set it up or do a tutorial, or even a neighbor or a family member can't come into their homes right now. Or maybe they don't even have that kind of technology at their house. So we've been brainstorming on some ways for them to be able to kind of join us from a distance, even if they're handicapped in one way, shape, or form, technology-wise. So we're doing a lot of research into that. So keep thinking about that. We're going to try and keep moving forward in that direction as well. But obviously, we want to be back together for Mass, so that's really important. So I just wanted now. That's kind of the update as far as what's going on at the parish. I wanted to actually make sure that you guys know if you have questions or things you want to bring up and somebody's talking, there's that chat feature on the right-hand side in Zoom. And if you just want to drop something in the chat, we'll see it. Obviously, Lori and Father and I will see that, and we can ask those questions as we go. But I just wanted to give us a chance to talk for a little bit. So I'm going to unmute everybody and be mindful of your surroundings. If you've got dogs barking or horns blaring or whatever, throw the mute on really quick. But I'm going to unmute everyone. Here we go. And I just wanted to open up the conversation to say hi to everybody. Walt has something. Yeah, Walt, what do you got, buddy?
A question for Father.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to know, I noticed that when you're doing the Eucharist and you're breaking the host in church, that after you break them, you take a little, your fingers take a little piece and put it into the chalice. What is the significance of that?
That's an awesome question.
It's the commingling of the body and blood of Christ. The priest at that point says silently, "May the mingling of the body and blood of Christ bring us to everlasting life." He is showing the unity of Christ's body and blood as the Eucharist. They're not separate, but it was his body and blood. His blood flowed from his body on the cross. And so the church has always wanted to show that unity. And so I take a tiny piece of the host and I put it into the precious blood in the chalice.
It's a great question. And I think that if anybody's got a question about something like that, like Mass related, like those are really good ways for us to learn, because I think that especially when it comes to when we experience Mass, we see a lot of things and we hear a lot of things, but we don't know why we do those things. I think that that's a really fair thing to say. So if anybody else has questions, anything like that, those are great, awesome ones. Betty, I think I know that Betty was having a hard time jumping on a little bit ago, so I think she's going to be joining us if she hasn't already, but in just a minute.
Yeah, there she is.
There she is. Betty, do you want to say hi to everyone really quick?
Hello there. I do have a question for Father.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
Actually, it's to let Lori know that when we get back in the office, because the Bible says so, we don't have to make the coffee.
Oh!
Oh.
And it says right in the Bible, do you know where, Father? Adam?
I think I've heard this before, but I don't remember.
You knew and you didn't?
I don't remember. So I know you're gonna have a biblical proof text for this.
That's right.
But I don't remember what it is.
All right,
Okay,
Betty, tell us in Scripture. Where does it say that?
I will tell you. It's in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Okay, so the books of the Bible are 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy,
Mm-hmm.
Titus,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Philemon,
yeah.
and what's the next one? Starts with an H.
Hebrews.
Thank you. There's your answer. All right.
Is it? I didn't hear it. What was it?
Hebrews.
True.
Hebrews.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's a good one.
I knew it. See, I don't store information like that.
No, that's right. And I do. We're a good team.
Hebrews.
Hebrews.
Okay,
So,
well, anyway.
So I vote. I think I'll write a letter to the Pope and let's change the name of the book to Shebrews.
There you go.
well, Father, in the interest of fairness,
Yes.
maybe they bruise.
Oh, Hebrews. Oh, okay. I kind of like Hebrews better, but
Fair
anyway.
enough. All right. So what other questions do you guys have, whether it's something about Mass or faith or anything like that? What are questions that you guys wanted to throw at Father and the staff about anything? Father, you got something?
And if, what Walt's question just brought to mind something that I guess I didn't realize, but maybe something for you and me to consider in shooting Mass from the camera's point of view. So Walt, you saw that the mingling of the body and blood of Christ because you were watching Mass up close, right? Maybe you never noticed that before?
I did not notice that, but to be fair,
Yeah.
Linda and I both noticed it. So Linda noticed it first. So I have to full disclosure. Linda noticed it first, but yes, we can watch the Mass much closer when we're watching it the way we are now than when we're at Mass.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Adam and I have I think focused on is that that Mass is close to you when you watch it, as opposed to seeing this like wide angle screen of the church, and some of the Masses that I've watched, or I've kind of scanned a little bit to see what some other folks are doing. It's this huge kind of expanse, and you see a lot of stuff, and it's a nice looking church building or whatever, but you can't really see what the priest is doing. The way that ours is being filmed, you can see what the priest is doing, and I'm convinced that has real power. Don't you agree?
I agree. I would agree with that. And just in that vein, Walt, as we were watching Mass once, we probably speak too much during Mass than we normally would as partners right next to each other. But there's a lot of private prayer, personal prayer that the priest says, and if you're not up on the altar, you don't experience. And Donna would ask once, well, what's he saying? And I go, well, there's all prayers when he's doing, like when the mingling of the body and blood, there's certain times where there's personal prayer, and all that definitely comes across in the saying of the Mass, just exactly for that reason, Father, because you're right there, you're experiencing the entire thing. And sometimes your mic is on, and sometimes your mic is off, and you catch what the prayer is. And I think for some people it'd be interesting to say, what specifically is that prayer that's being said now, for what reason? So Walt's question was a great lead-in to those kind of things that a lot of people probably don't realize even occur. They think you're bowing with your eyes closed and saying nothing, but there's a prayer there, as the whole consecration is occurring in various parts of the liturgy of the Eucharist. So I think it's interesting. Definitely a different point of view.
Yeah, one of the most, I think, probably one of the most beautiful prayers of the Mass is one that no one ever hears. And that is when the priest is purifying the chalice, he says, "What has passed our lips as food, may we possess in purity of heart, that what has been given to us in time may be our healing for eternity." Those words are so powerful in my mind, and no one ever hears those because the instruction is that the priest says that sotto voce, under his voice, in a whisper. But to me, that prayer is so powerful.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Father, there are actually things in, because Father and I will talk about this all the time. What do you do, Father? You say the black, you do the red, right?
Yeah.
So in the missal that Father uses during the Mass, there's that book on the altar. There's black text, which is what Father would say, and then the red text, which is kind of italicized a little bit, which is what he does. Like there's a motion or something that he does. if I'm not mistaken, there are parts in the missal that say, or something to the effect of like in secret or something like that, to that effect, right? So these are things that are said that the priest says solo away from everybody else. So there's parts of the Mass where you are leading us in prayer. And then there are parts of the Mass where you are praying on our behalf.
Yeah. So
there's things that like we don't do that he does. Yeah. And there's things that he will say that we respond to. It's kind of like one of those things like I learned a long time ago, like there's positions that you as a priest will do that sometimes we have a tendency to mimic that we're actually not supposed to mimic, because those are things that are for you to do, right? And those are those kind of those secret prayers too. They're those soul. What was it again? The phrase that you used?
What you mean? Oh yeah, he says under his
solo
voice.
voce. What is
sotto voce, or under his voice, or in a whisper. Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, Lori, I think you had a question, right?
Yeah, this is a question to everybody. Betty, Father, and I have been talking about the bulletin, and Father and I are still publishing a bulletin every week. We do have some of our shut-ins who have been getting the bulletin mailed to them. Betty's been picking up some bulletins on Friday and delivering them to some of our older parishioners. But we're wondering, is anybody going online and reading the bulletin? Do people know that they can do that? We were talking about how to still get the bulletin out to people. So brainstorming last night at the council meeting, we thought maybe if we have a receptacle outside of the parish office, and then one at Our Lady of Peace in that front entryway to the rectory building, where we ask people to drop off their donations for food, would people come and pick up a bulletin? We're just kind of wondering, are people still reading the bulletin during this time that we are apart?
Good
So
question.
I'll just put that question out to everybody. I mean, does anybody have, like, are you guys still reading the bulletin? Are you like, would it be better if there was a physical copy that you could get at home? So just so people know, there is the digital one. There's a direct link in the service through our provider, which is called LPI. It's a website called Parishes Online, where you can actually search for the name of our parish. But at our website, when you go to the homepage, up at the top in that banner that says bulletin, and you should be able to click that and it will bring you up to that page. Would it be more helpful maybe if I edited the website so that instead of looking in the banner, that I put a link or a button directly on the front, so it's front and center, so people can read it a little bit more easily? What do you guys think?
It might remind people that it's available if they're not, poking around in the website.
Okay, so maybe making it a little bit more front and center on the webpage?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good piece of feedback. Anything else? What do you guys think?
And Adam, people can also go on to Parishes Online, and there's a subscription button.
Great
They
point.
can hit that subscription button, put in their email, and then once the bulletin is available online, they receive an email, click the email, and they can view the bulletin that way.
That's a really good point. Maybe what we could do is Lori and I will also work on a quick, I know it sounds silly, but a quick tutorial to show people like, hey, you can subscribe to the bulletin digitally so you don't miss out every week. That's a great idea. I know Janet said that she goes online and reads it, and that's great, and that people would maybe benefit from a hard copy too. Walt, you're reading it online too. That's awesome. Anyone else have feedback about that?
Yeah, well, I read it online, but maybe since some of the people aren't tech savvy or whatever, some of these aids that we are providing on Zoom and YouTube and the Mass, maybe a short letter could go out to the parishioners with some links and what's available.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point, Jim. I like that.
Well, Walt reads it online, but as much as I love technology, I still like to I like to read it. So he reads it online and then he prints it so I can have a hard copy.
Okay. That's a good way to do it too.
It's just like some people do books on tape. Some people like to hold that book in their hand, Linda.
Yeah, but I'm an electronic reader on a book.
Oh, okay.
But
Really?
paper and bulletins, I like the hard copy of that. It's funny. Yeah.
All right. Now, Gloria, I think that you had a question that you wanted to ask, so I want to throw it
Yes.
over to you. What was your question?
I had two questions.
Okay.
First of all, talking about the Mass, I've always wondered why the priest goes to sit down after communion.
That's a great question. So, yeah, so Father, after you're done, as I like to joke around, doing the dishes,
Yeah.
why do you go and sit down?
The instruction in the missal encourages the priest to give the people a period of thanksgiving for, after receiving, so that nobody's talking, nobody's doing anything. And so there's a period of silence for thanksgiving.
Hi, how are you?
Before the priest
Good.
completes the communion rite, which ends with that closing prayer, let us pray.
Mhm.
And so that's why, in fact, in some churches, they do meditations and stuff, but really there's supposed to be a period of silence. Then the priest completes the communion rite with the prayer, and then there can be announcements and whatever. But it's for a period of thanksgiving and for Jesus in the Eucharist.
Yeah, I mean, and from a theological perspective, if the Eucharist is exactly what we say that it is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus, maybe taking a minute to really contemplate on that and rest in that is a good idea, and not to make it just this kind of flippant. It's not the same as grabbing something from the drive-in at like a Burger King, like we should rest in that for a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. That's a great question, Gloria. Now you had a second question, Gloria, and then Walt, you have one too. I'm going to jump over to you after Gloria's second one.
I just want to add to that. Maybe at one time when we used missals 100 years ago, it explained what that was for, but I don't think it's obvious that to the participants in the Mass,
Yeah.
If you sat down, and I don't know what you can do, but if it was made known to people that that's what we're supposed to do, instead of sometimes
Yeah.
it can look like the priest, and not just you, can look like they're just kind of holding you there for another so many minutes.
That's a fair
And
point.
I've never
I got
seen
so tired doing the Eucharistic prayer that I had to sit down and
Right.
regain my cardiovascular composure.
Okay, my second question. Last night, and stop me if you want to, last night at the parish council meeting, which you may have seen me or not, I knew I couldn't, for some reason I couldn't participate. But anyway, we were talking about recognizing the seniors in the community.
Yep.
And how could we possibly do that? And I was thinking, maybe we could have a sign on the lawn of both churches. And then going on from this year, we could make it a permanent thing and just hang a little tag on it for whatever class it is, but especially have it for this year. There would be an easy way. A lot of people drive by Woods Road.
Yeah.
I don't know about in Lakeland how many people drive by there, but I think there'd be an easy way to recognize them. Another idea I was thinking of is if we generated a some sort of a card. We're your friends and we're wishing you the best in your future. But then it would require getting their names. I was thinking myself that I would, every time I see one of those signs, I would make a little card and send it to that kid. But those are a couple suggestions for what we could do to recognize the kids.
Would it make sense to, we have those big signs in front of each of the church buildings. And right now we're really not using them. Both signs just kind of say Easter blessings, but, and it's time to change that. so maybe we should make both of those signs dedicated to the high school seniors in the area, and that would even, they're both good photo spots too.
Mm.
Mhm.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think maybe we could just say something like "We love you, class of 2020" or something like that on the big advertising signs, and then, like you said, we can snap some quick photos. Gloria, I really like the idea of card writing, and maybe we can reach out to the district and say, like, is there a chance that we could get addresses for seniors so we can send them an encouragement card? Thankfully, this year, specifically with the elementary school and the middle school, we've had a lot of, hi Maggie, Maggie's back there, over there. We've had a lot of really good success in working with the elementary school and middle school in doing outreach, like our Halloween and Christmas party and stuff like that, as kind of ways to bring in the community and serve the community. So I think that if we were to try and keep this as like non-threatening as possible, maybe doing something like that would be a good idea, like doing a card campaign for our seniors. That'd be a really good way to outreach. Gloria, is it a follow-up on what we were talking about before?
I also like the, don't forget the college kids are graduating right now.
Yeah.
If we do a generic sign in front of the churches that says, "Congratulations, graduates," it covers everybody.
That's a good point. Lori just said in the chat,
And
if we do
Gloria, I
class
just
of
sent that
2020.
in the chat. So
Oh,
we're on the
okay.
same wavelength.
I'm just noticing,
Yeah.
because it even includes the 8th graders going into, how they have it at the end of each.
Mhm.
Sure.
The moving up ceremony.
They have it.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right, so Walt, I saw that you had a question, so I'm going to throw it back to you again.
Hello.
Walt, what is your question?
I have just a statement and a question. The one
Go for it.
thing is, I think that we normally see when we do these types of Zoom things, the same people are here all the time, and I think part of that is because of what you were saying. People don't know how to do it, and I know nobody's in the office anymore, but would it be possible to send out a mailing to everybody with instructions on the various ways to do this so that people know? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an idea, but it's kind of, you're kind of, and I don't mean this you're preaching to the choir here. We're all here.
Yeah.
And we've got to get the word out. And I think that's one way to get the word out, where it's just, that's all that says. It's not in the bulletin with everything else. It's good to be in the bulletin, but have it where it's specific to the coffee talk or the mass.
Yep.
So maybe if I'm hearing you correctly, Walt, maybe developing some sort of mailing campaign that gives some really clear instruction, I guess,
Correct.
on how to join us digitally.
Correct.
And so talking about these digital opportunities that we have, whether it's Mass Online or Father or somebody at the parish making content for people, or the coffee talk stuff. So I think that that's a really good idea. Father, what do you think about doing
and
something
if you
like
need people to, I mean, I can stuff envelopes, I can, whatever needs to be done. And just one other thought before you do. I was just reading, normally Mother's Day weekend coming up is the big post office food drive. That has been postponed.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Okay.
I guess I'm leading into that is that, that carried the pantry for quite a while when we did that.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're gonna reschedule it, but that's probably not gonna be at least till the fall, if that happens at all. Okay.
Yep.
So I just wanted to put that out there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
good point. That's a really good point. Well, thanks for that.
I'm hearing in several different ways that people are saying some kind of mailing needs to go out I'm wondering, should it be a mailing to the registered parishioners, or should it be one of those big postcard mailings that would be to everyone in the postal area? So it could be kind of an evangelization thing if it were one of those big postcards. I don't know. Or do you think just to the registered parishioners?
I think that's a great question. Just to kind of, Lori, you said you were going to say something really quick, right?
No, I think maybe Father has a good idea to target the community as a whole, you know, as an evangelization tool. I think there's a lot of people that are home now, a lot of people that are looking for other resources. So maybe it's something we need to consider doing, the mass postcard to everybody.
Yeah, and I think maybe Jim, I'm sorry if we stepped on. I think Jim mentioned that earlier, like a way to kind of reach out to people who maybe don't know or need some help or some instruction, or you know, just another way to communicate. So Jim, I think you mentioned that earlier. I wanted to kind of echo that. So yeah, maybe we could work on that. And I think that maybe whether it's a postcard or it is like an envelope stuffer mailing, I think that designing something that's kind of engaging, and another thing too, and I'm please understand my saying this is not, I think that we should try and bring people away from attending whatever church that they attend, but I know that there's been a lot of difficulty in several other churches to be able to do the kind of work that we've been doing. So just to make sure that people know that they can stay connected with the church at large, I think that that'd be really helpful too, like for other members of the community. Those are some really great points, you guys. Thank you for bringing that. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments or anything that they'd like to say? Throw it in the chat, raise your hand. I know you got, Linda, yes. Hold on one second. Let me set you up here. Go ahead, Linda. What do you got?
Okay. I just have a comment, and it's something that you touched on earlier about Sunday Mass. And after we watched Mass this past Sunday, I had said to Walt, I said, you know, it seems like we've been in this situation forever. Okay. But we really haven't been. It hasn't been all that long. And I said to Walt, I said, in the short time that we've really been doing this, I can't believe how much Mass has improved in how it's being done. So I know you said that you're using different, ways of doing it now. And I just wanted to let you know that it's very noticeable. I mean, it really is very nice.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. We really do appreciate that. And we're trying to keep it as safe as possible. When we do our Mass, we're always maintaining social distancing, and we're cleaning everything and stuff like that. So that was when Father and I really started having to have these conversations. We want everything that we do from this point on. We wanted to really make sure that we were mindful of not only being safe, but also making sure people can tell that we're being safe when we do stuff. So you'll notice that you'll never see more than one person in the picture at a time because we're staying away from one another. We're trying not to sit next to one another when we're doing stuff too. So we're trying to keep that stuff safe. Laura, you said you wanted to add something too.
Yes, not a question, but just a bit of information. There was a delay in mailing out the church envelopes from the company. So if people have not received their envelopes yet, be patient. I know some started arriving in the mail yesterday, and I had just gotten a phone call. That's why I stepped away from Cathedral Corporation, following up to say they've been tracking and they have hit the post offices. So if you hear any conversation from people wondering about their envelopes, they should be in the mailbox or arriving in the next couple of days.
Good to know. So don't freak out. Your envelopes are on the way.
Yep. And Father and I had been talking on Monday, if they hadn't come, then again, we were going to get the roll call out just to still encourage people the importance of sending in their stewardship. So.
All right. Well, so if you guys still have more questions or comments or just want to say something, feel free to jump in. But the kind of last thing that I want to do is a little bit of a conversation starter and a chance for us to connect a little bit more is, I mentioned earlier, talking about the idea of self-care during this. We're all inside, we're disconnected, and it can be really hard to take care of ourselves. And so I wanted to kind of have a conversation about what that looks like for us as Christians and as people. Like, how do we take care of ourselves, and what are maybe some things that you're doing that you can share with us that are maybe a good tip for you, that have worked for you, that maybe we can try, and take that and leave it for what you may. If I can share one thing before you guys jump in, I know that I'm always the one who's like talking about technology stuff, so bear with me. But somebody on Twitter that I follow shared this app called Pause, and the people who make it are not Catholic, but they are Christians, and there's nothing problematic about it, and it's nothing that's contrary to church teaching. But what it is it's a chance for you to kind of unplug and pray. It kind of helps with prayer, but it's not like, okay, I'm going to say a rosary, I'm going to do this or that. Not that there's anything wrong with those things. But this is what the app looks like in the App Store. Let me try and hold up so you can see it. It's called 1 Minute Pause. And it's a free app. And what it is it gives you the opportunity to set a reminder on your device either once or twice a day. And it starts with a minute-long reflection. And you can customize it. So there's a guy who wrote a book. His name is John Eldridge. And his whole campaign right now is helping people stay connected to God during these really difficult times. And so it's a 1 minute reflective prayer where he does like a brief narration, and there's some music in the background, and there's like a really cool image that it's just kind of meant to be a little bit more centering and peaceful when things can feel really chaotic. If you don't like his voiceover, you can mute it. If you don't like the music, you can mute it. But it's really cool because it kind of gets you in a position where if that kind of prayer isn't your thing, it kind of weans you into it. So it starts with only a minute at a time. And for me, it's really helpful because I'm reward driven. So every time I accomplish a task, like I get so when you go in and you do the meditation or you do the prayer, it'll tell you like, good job. And it shows me your streak, like, so how many days in a row you've done it, and then how many meditations you've done. And it's all about giving yourself over to Jesus and giving your circumstances over to Jesus, giving your family over to Jesus, and asking God to fill you up. So it's actually a really interesting app if you want to check it out. It's free. There's no cost to it. I will say that the guy who made the app, his organization, he has written a book, and at the very bottom, there's a very discreet little thing that you can tap if you're interested in his book and want to buy it. I'm not plugging the book. I think the app is really awesome. So that's just one of the things that I've been doing. Is there anything you guys have done right now that has been really beneficial to help you kind of stay sane? Like whether it's, I know Mike and I have a shared experience in gardening. We saw each other at Lowe's the other day, grabbing soil for our gardens. What are some things that you guys are doing? Raise your hand or hit the hand raise or throw it in the chat. We'd love to hear about what you guys are doing to kind of stay sane right now. Father, is there anything you're doing?
Because this is so difficult for me to be separated from a lot of people. I mean, you know, in a normal day, I probably see 30, 40, 50 people. And so to go down to almost nothing is suffering for me. You know, introverts love this time, but extroverts are suffering terrible. And so the one thing that I've done is I actually have made a point to connect with people that I have not talked to in literally years. I connected with a seminary classmate that I have not talked to in about 28 years. And I called him up. I looked up where he was at in the Diocese of Worcester, and I called him up and had a 20-minute conversation with him, and it was totally fresh, totally new. That's so awesome. That I'm trying to do some things that are totally fresh and totally new, because, you know, the people you're with all the time or are close by, you don't have a lot of new things to talk about. There's not a lot of, you know, stimulation for sharing. But with this person, we had to catch up, 28 years. So that's what I've tried to do. That's helped me a lot.
Awesome. Janet was saying in the chat that she makes a point to go on walks in the neighborhood, and she finds the statue, saying some prayers, and that Our Lady statue that she finds it heartwarming. So just being out of the house, when the weather's halfway decent, to do a walk and get out in the sunshine, move your legs, can be really. And also, she says that she brings her donations for the food pantry when she does that too. So that's really awesome. Lori, is there anything that you've been doing to kind of help you stay sane? I don't know if you're a resident baker, so I don't know if your baking quotient has gone up to maintain your sanity.
Unfortunately, yeah, that has, but trying to curtail that a little bit. Our family, every Sunday evening, we would get together, and it's been a tradition that's gone on for, I don't know, Jim, 30 some years. So the family's now doing Zoom nights, dinner on Sunday, but it's nice because some of the kids who don't live in Syracuse, who can't be with us every Sunday, are now able to join in. So last Sunday, we had the whole entire family, all the siblings, all the grandchildren, our sister who doesn't normally come on Sunday, she was in. So that's been a really nice way for the family to stay connected. It's kind of the highlight of everybody's week. So again, technology has been wonderful. And been trying to resume that exercising that I never seemed to have a chance to do before. So going out for a walk, getting some exercise in, that really helps to clear the head, and you feel good about it. So just kind of taking some time for myself, I found that to be very beneficial.
That's awesome. Anybody else got points or tips or things that they wanted to add about things that they've been doing during this to kind of stay sane, stay healthy, help yourself out? Gloria, you had something you wanted to say.
Yes. My husband has been baking bread. I think he's baked about 20 loaves of bread. He was on YouTube and he found Artisan Bread by Steve, and it's a no-knead bread, and anybody can do it. So he's been baking bread every other day. It's requires very little yeast. I've been walking and exercising, and I, like Father, I've been calling people, and a name will pop into my head, and then I call that person.
Yeah.
And it's very gratifying.
It is.
Those little ways to connect. Now, Walt, you had your hand raised. What did you want to add?
Well, one of the things I've been doing, and I'm hoping that the weather gets warm, but my garden is pretty much ready to plant. But with the forecast in the that's there, it doesn't look too promising for another week or so anyway.
Yeah.
Especially saying that there might be snow, coming up. But one of the things that I do and that we do, both of us, is we were news junkies. And we pretty much have stayed away from the news for the most part. I mean, I do stay informed about what's going on, but I stay away from the news, because if you listen to everything that you're hearing on the news, it'll drive you, it can have an effect on your mental state. Okay, so that's one of the things. But the gardening is the big thing that I do to keep myself busy, and obviously we both, with the pantry, keeps us pretty busy. So
that's great. Yeah, I one of the things that I did is, much like Gloria mentioned about looking up stuff on YouTube, I will admit that I'm not super handy. Like, I'm really good with technology and stuff like that, but when it comes to like woodwork and things like that, that's not really my forte. So I looked up a video about how to make raised beds, and I made raised beds because in our backyard we don't have a lot of room for soil. There's maybe about 6 inches of actual dirt, and then you hit rock. And so I made these raised beds. So that was my big project. Kate and I, we had some leftover lumber that my brother-in-law gave us, and I looked up the right kind of screws to use and what kind of soil to use, which is when I ran into Mike at Lowe's. But yeah, I mean, just taking on projects sometimes can be super helpful.
Yep.
But well, if you go, oh yeah, Linda, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say one of the things that actually brings a lot of peace is nature, for me. And Walt and I, our birders also. We do a lot of bird watching, and we have a feeder, and we've been home now more to see what type of birds are coming. And it's been really interesting we've been noting a lot of new birds that we've never seen before. Actually, Walt's been trying to attract the Baltimore Oriole, and he just jumped up a while ago, and we got our first one at the feeder just now.
Nice.
Really?
So that's one of our things, because we used to go, I mean, we would also go out to the, sapsucker woods and, places just purposely to spot birds, so that's one thing though that we have a little bit more time for in our own backyard to see what's coming, into the yard. So that's been
awesome.
nice.
Well, those are some really great ones, some great tips. And if you guys have any other thoughts or suggestions, we encourage you guys to share them with us, either like online, like you can submit them through our Facebook page or in the YouTube section in the comments, or you can email them to us. And we just want to be able to share things with people, ways to just kind of stay connected and stay sane, because it's really important for us to take care of ourselves during this time. I think that we can get really wrapped up in either working at home or just really getting distracted by maybe some of the negativity or the anxiety of what's happening. And it's really important to make time and hold space for those times to take care of ourselves, because that's actually part of being a Christian, is not neglecting yourself and being good to yourself. Laura, you said you had something you wanted to add before we wrap up today. What was it that you wanted to add before we wrap
Just
up?
before we wrap up today, today is National Nurses Recognition Day.
Yes.
So if we could just ask everybody, I'm sure we all know a nurse, not only a nurse, but somebody in the healthcare field. And if we could just take a moment sometime during your day today, just to say an extra prayer for them. And if you know a nurse, reach out to him or her and just say, thank you for everything you're doing at this time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I think that we're right at the point where I don't want to make this too laborious for everybody, but if you guys could do me one favor before we end, I'm going to go ahead and do something really quick. It's great for us to be able to spend time together. And so if you guys can, before we wrap up, will you do me a favor and look right into your webcam? And I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, cheese. And we're just going to snap a picture really quick for everyone just to say hi. Ready? So 3, 2, 1, cheese.
Cheese.
Got it. You guys, oh, look at how you guys are so photogenic. Well, I'm not, but you guys are.
Yes, you are.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on Coffee Talk this week. And if you're able to join us live, that's awesome. We encourage you to share it online through our YouTube channel. It'll be up later today on YouTube for you to watch. And we will see you in Mass this weekend. Father, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, just join us for online Mass. And again, Adam and I will do our best to make it as prayerful as we can.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you guys soon. God bless.
God bless you all.
Bye, guys.